Black Desert Online is a Korean MMORPG that initially released in the West in 2016.
Oh shit, wrong video.
Today we're talking about Black Desert Online.
Damn it, still the wrong video. In the crazy genre of MMORPGs, there is a few big dogs that have blown up in terms of popularity. Obviously, World of Warcraft has stood the test of time, being incredibly popular since its initial launch back in 2004. RuneScape is another titan in the genre, being arguably the most popular free-to-play MMO on the market. Others like Final Fantasy XIV and Guild Wars 2 have also tasted massive success over their years, with Final Fantasy particularly blowing up on a massive scale. Black Desert Online is debatably one of those titans, releasing onto the scene in Korea in 2015 and eventually hitting our shores in 2016. The game is relatively young, but it's starting to be considered one of the biggest titles in the genre, pulling as much as 30 million players as of September 2020, with the title grossing over $1.7 billion worldwide. Definitely not small numbers. The game is also on just about every platform, and as of last year now supports cross-play, except for the mobile version, because, you know, whatever.
Do you guys not have phones? Yeah, you guys don't.
Making the community massive and allowing various ways to play the game besides just a gaming PC. The game is buy to play, only costing an upfront cost of $10 and even being included with the Xbox Game Pass. However, all of that is subject to change since Pearlibis, the initial company behind the game, is taking control back from the Cacao Games in the West, which is an overall net positive for the player base since the company who developed the game will now fully own the game again, essentially making it a great time to jump in. And with the content roadmap being revealed for 2021, the game is set to be supported for a long time. After playing it for a couple weeks now, I got past its initial hurdles, learned the mechanics of the game, and fully got hooked on it. The combat system is fun, the world is massive, and it's fun to just get lost in Black Desert. But is it as great as some say it is? Does it have that AAA quality behind it, or is it a pay-to-win cash shop mess? Well, let's talk about Black Desert Online and see if it's something you should check out. Black Desert Online's story can be a little hard to follow, but the small gist of it is that you are an adventurer who wakes up with amnesia, but not only that, you've been possessed by some little black spirit. The black spirit begins to guide you on your journey through various events, and as the story goes on, you unravel what the spirit is and how you connect to the world around you. The story is more or less flavor and is mostly forgotten more so for the game itself, which isn't a bad thing at all. Character creation is vast, with people being able to create absolute masterpieces or abominations that would scare a small child. Like, look at some of these creations, it's insane. Besides actually making your character look like the Crimson Chin, you also have various choices in classes. Unfortunately, Black Desert Online does commit the major MMO sin of forcing gender-locked classes on players.
You just like assume my gender.
Even classes that seem like just opposite gender counterparts play completely differently. For instance, the archer uses a hand crossbow and a great bow, while the ranger uses a longbow and a sword. Either way, whatever class you do pick starts with a specific weapon they can use, and eventually they choose two paths, more or less like a class advancement, called Succession, where you continue using the weapon you start with, or Awakening, where you start using the alternate weapon the class can choose. Anyways, the class choices are Warrior, Ranger, Sorceress, Berserker, which is unfortunately arguably the ugliest class in the game.
I can't be ugly! I can't be! I can't be ugly!
Tamer, Musa, Meiwa, Valkyrie, Kunoichi, Ninja, Wizard, Witch, Dark Knight, Striker, Mystic, Archer, Lawn, Shy, Guardian, Hashashin, and the newest class recently released being the Nova. Each class will start with their specific weapon type, and eventually at level 56, they can do their Succession or Awakening quest. The main gameplay loop starting with a new character will be leveling up and completing the main storyline quest. The storyline quest takes you through just about every major section of the massive world map, while leveling you up and getting you some really good rewards, like bag space, weapons, and more or less teaching you any mechanics of the game you may not know. So, let's talk about everything that BDO has to offer. First off, let's talk combat, which is obviously going to be the main selling point of BDO for most people. Black Desert has an active action-based combat system where you can input commands with various keystrokes or button combinations on your controller to perform combos or string together specific attacks. Combat feels really intense, and fighting the horde of enemies you will be taking on is incredibly satisfying, especially once you start unlocking more and more skills for your class. Although I would have to say, some of the button combinations to do specific moves can be really awkward, especially on a keyboard. Combat is probably one of Black Desert's greatest strengths if you are looking for something more action-packed than the standard tab target combat systems. Combat is also affected by your character's secondary skills called battle stats. The various battle stats you can improve are breath, which determines how long you can be underwater, strength, which is how much you can carry in terms of weight in your inventory, and health, which increases your max HP. There is also attack speed, movement speed, and critical hit, which is usually determined by buffs or equipment. Besides combat, obviously, there is also a plethora of PvE content to take part in. Besides the main storyline quests, there is obviously thousands of quests to complete. Each town you visit or areas in general will have various NPCs you can talk to that will give quests to complete, with many of them even being repeatable each day for varying rewards. Talking to the NPCs will also grant something called knowledge, which is a major mechanic in the game and is important for your character and basically your whole game account's progression. The more knowledge you have, the more energy you have. Energy is required to do various life skills in the game, similar to Arcade. I'll explain the knowledge system more in depth in a bit, but first let's talk about energy and life skills. Obviously, as with any MMORPG, there is life skills that your character can improve. The life skills are gathering, processing, which is essentially crafting various products, cooking, alchemy, training, which is how well you are able to interact and level up the mounts you acquire, fishing, hunting, trading, farming, bartering, and sailing. Each life skill has various ranks and tiers they can be leveled up to, obviously improving that specific skill and granting bonuses. Energy is required to do various activities that involve your life skills. For example, to gather water, you will have to expend energy. Energy starts at a low number, but can be slowly improved over time, allowing you to perform more tasks. This is where your knowledge comes in. You see, the more knowledge points you have, the more your maximum energy will increase. Various bits of knowledge is worth a certain amount of points, and there is tons of ways to increase your knowledge in the game. Talking to NPCs, crafting an item for the first time, harvesting a specific item for the first time, killing enemies up to rank S, discovering locations, and completing quests. Depending on how many points the piece of knowledge is worth is typically how hard it is to learn. Luckily, knowledge and energy is actually account-wide progression, meaning playing alternate characters is actually beneficial since you will get more energy or have more chances to learn knowledge on more than one character. Probably one of my favorite ways to earn knowledge is through the NPC Amity minigame. Essentially, imagine a more fleshed out dialogue minigame from Oblivion. Each unique NPC has a percentage favor towards you, indicated by Amity. The higher the Amity, the more you unlock various things through that NPC, whether it be knowledge, a new quest to do, a secret shop, or heck, even specific buffs. Sheesh, I can't tell you how many hours I spent on this game just doing life skills or playing minigames. Next, let's talk about more activities such as PvP. PvP in Black Desert is pretty healthy from everything I've seen. So first off, there is dedicated PvP servers where you can essentially attack anyone in PvP in the open world without suffering any penalties. On other servers, you can be attacked, but it's mostly opt-in PvP. If you get attacked and you are not flagged for PvP, the opposing player will lose karma, so it's really discouraged to just outright go around killing innocent players. Luckily, there is dedicated PvP activities. Things like Red Battlefield, which is a conquest type huge arena PvP map in which teams of players fight each other, earning rewards. There is arenas you can reserve to practice PvP with friends or have duels with other players. The Arena of Arsha is essentially arenas that guild masters can use to host their own PvP tournaments with their guildies hierarchies, node wars are for guild versus guild activities in which two guilds will wage war over control of resources, and then there is even PvP horse racing called the Old Moon Grand Prix. The PvP community in BDO isn't absolutely massive or anything, but there is enough players getting into these events and a healthy amount of YouTube content showing off PvP. Endgame in BDO has a lot of different options. You can max out your knowledge, which would take just a ridiculous amount of time, since every single enemy in the game has knowledge that can be learned from it, and getting specifically the S-rank knowledge can sometimes take hours just for one enemy. You can earn every title in the game, earning extra drop rate perks. You can increase your life skills to make money that will help pay to improve your gear. Obviously, improving your gear score is a major component of endgame. Unfortunately, improving gear is dependent on RNG with its enchantment system, but we will get more into that in the cash shop section. There is PvP content to get into, since PvP is primarily an endgame activity. There is world bosses and rifts, with some that are set on a timer that endgame players will take part in for rewards. Exploration is also a huge component as well. I mean, the map is massive, ladies and gents, and if you are looking for something to do at endgame, you can explore every nook and cranny of the map, uncovering all the regions. Fashion is also a huge part of endgame, with players earning money to deck out how their characters look. There is also horse taming and breeding, sort of like Breath of the Wild, where you can tame specific horses to earn different aesthetics for them and even sell them for more money. Guys and gals, literally there is tons of stuff to do in endgame, with even more stuff coming on the horizon in 2021. Next, let's talk music and graphics. The music has been playing in the background of this video and is straight from the game. It fits the atmosphere very well. I'm no music expert, so I can't really comment much further than that, but my overall summarization is that the music is great, especially some of the battle tunes. They give a sense of epicness to what you are doing. Here, have a listen. In the graphics department, I would have to say Black Desert Online looks gorgeous, especially when you have it running on max settings on a PC. The console version gets close in terms of graphical fidelity, but seriously, ladies and gents, if you have a gaming PC that can run this on maxed out settings at 60 plus FPS, this game is beautiful. The areas are seriously a spectacle to look at and just adds more to the game's immersion. Like sometimes when I am fishing and relaxing, maybe playing RuneScape at the same time, I'll just stare at the screen because it does look really good, and then I get caught off guard because I hooked in a fish.
Nice.
Okay, now that I've basically been kissing the game's ass for the past 10 minutes, let's talk about the cash shop. Black Desert is largely criticized for its cash shop being considered pay to win, and I can't necessarily argue against that fact. There is definitely items in the cash shop that will give you an advantage over others. Things like cosmetic outfits that give boosted experience to combat or life skills, improved mounts, pets that you can equip that will give increased knowledge or drop rates, energy boosters so you can perform more tasks, increased inventory space since the inventory you start with is incredibly limited. There is a pseudo subscription system with their value packs, and of course there is various sales and FOMO promotions to incentivize players to spend money. I'd say usually the biggest items that can make people raise an eyebrow is the items that increase your chances to improve your gear. Typically, enhancing gear requires various items, money, and resources to do so, all at a specific rate of succession, with higher levels obviously being pretty difficult to succeed. There are guides out there on being able to get the best improvement rates, like locking in succession percentage, gathering items during events, using alternate characters, etc. Or you can just buy items in the cash shop that will help you improve your gear without having to go through a lot of that fuss. You can even buy cash shop items, sell them to other players, and get money that will set your account for a while, allowing you to buy pretty much anything you need at the time. Much of the BDO community scrutinizes the game for this, and honestly, I can't blame them. them. Sure, you can earn a lot of things that are bought in the cash shop either through events or from other players, but you can't deny that this has been a sore spot for a lot of the community when it comes to the shop. Hopefully, with Pearl Abyss taking back the publishing rights to BDO in the North American region, some of this may change, but I wouldn't hold my breath since it literally makes them millions of dollars. Now, I'm not gonna pretend like other big titles don't have some pay-to-win or pay-to-convenience items in their cash shop. Games like Warframe are considered very cash shop friendly and have a ton of convenience items in their shop. I'm just stating that Black Desert has that unfortunate stain on its history. Ultimately, what you actually spend on the game is all up to you anyways, since it really depends on what you want out of the game, which leads into the community. The community of Black Desert is a funny bunch. Most of the time, you'll see tons of memes or toxicity in world chat, which is pretty typical of popular MMOs like this. Most players will keep to themselves, but there are helpful players out there. For the most part, the best thing to do is join a guild, make friends with your guildies, and have a grand old time with your newly made acquaintances. More or less, community is standard fare. Nothing new to see here. Overall, Black Desert Online has a lot of positive aspects going for it, and if you can get past some of its flaws, this game can hold you over for years to come. Hell, even progression has a soft cap, meaning technically there is no cap level, so you can level endlessly. It just becomes practically impossible to level past a certain point. Anyways, here are my final thoughts before this video goes on too long. BDO has a really smooth, fun action combat system that might catch the eye of players who don't want to jump into the style of tab target combat that you will see in games like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV. And while some of the combos are a little quirky to pull off, it can be quite rewarding once you learn the ins and outs of your class choice. Speaking of classes, there is actually quite a variety of classes to choose from, with a healthy 21 classes to choose, each with their own pros and cons that will suit all styles of play. The game arguably has some of the better looking graphics on the market compared to some other MMORPGs. So if you want a game that is beautiful to look at while you play, this game has that aesthetic. Compared to a lot of other games I've talked about on the channel, I would have to say this game's PvP crowd is actually rather healthy. So if you're looking for some PvP, BDO might be the game for you. Just come into it with a relatively open mind, since PvP can be rather different compared to other MMOs. The game has a variety of content, from small features to big dedicated activities. There's probably something in the game that will occupy your time. BDO recently also launched cross-play support, meaning all platforms play with each other. So if you have some friends that want to jump in and prefer consoles, have them pick it up on their console of choice, and no matter what you choose, all of you can play together. Lastly, since the game is so popular, it's pretty safe to expect that the game is not going anywhere soon. They recently announced their 2021 roadmap, so if you are worried that Pearl Abyss might drop the game or something like that, I highly doubt that they would do so, especially with it being so profitable. Unfortunately, as we covered in the cash shop section, BDO does have a rather pay-to-win cash shop. There are players out there who have spent thousands and thousands of dollars to make their character and gear the absolute best around. If that makes them happy, then so be it. But the fact that this exists within the game will turn off players looking for a more fair experience. Who says beauty is free? Not me, because if you want the game to run and look absolutely amazing, you will need a rather decent gaming PC to run it. And on console, well, at least you guys can play the game.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
While there is a lot of endgame activities to take part in, it can feel like it's sort of aimless in its direction. Other MMOs have specific raids or dungeons to take part in, while BDO has no dedicated high-end player activity. It's more or less your choice. This can technically be argued as a positive, and personally I would agree, but I have seen arguments from players saying there is no endgame in BDO, or that what is available is not enough. Even though I enjoyed the game from beginning to where I am now, I can't help but feel that BDO suffers from an awkward early game. Many of its systems are just kind of thrown at you without properly explaining too much, or having to dig through menus and reading walls of text. If you can get through it, the game truly does open up to a pleasant experience, but it can be jarring for newer players. Lastly, and this is another personal opinion, I can't stand MMORPGs that limit themselves to restricting classes by gender. It's annoying at best and restrictive at worst. I know this is a common MMO trope in Eastern games, but come on, you really would have thought by now that this wouldn't still be as prevalent as it is, but here we are. Oh well. And that's all, ladies and gentlemen. Those are my thoughts on BDO. You know, I'm kind of proud of myself that I didn't talk about something specific with this game. Something that's usually pretty obvious and hard to miss. You know, those big
I got this new anime plot. Basically, there's this high school girl, except she's got huge boobs. I mean, some serious hunkers. A real set of badonkers. Packing some Doban hunkeros. Massive da hunka bankaloos. Big ol' Tanhangera cougars. What happens next? Transfer student shows up one day with even bigger Bankhanaga hoogs. Humongous hungalamganonologangas.
Don't forget to touch the beanbag.